Why is it that those with the greatest potential for spiritual growth are often born into the most unstable and troubled families? Why do you, the one who feels deeply, perceives sharply, and loves genuinely, end up labeled the black sheep, the emotional scapegoat, or the unseen one within your own family? The one who speaks truth but is met with silence, who carries light but is blamed for the darkness around them. Let's address something many are reluctant to confront. Your pain is not a punishment, it's a calling. It isn't rejection by the universe, but a form of initiation. Carl Jung, a foundational figure in modern psychology and soulful reflection, believed that every individual holds within them the seed of individuation, a sacred journey toward wholeness and returning to one's authentic self. Yet what is often left unspoken is this: for those chosen to uplift the collective spirit, that path rarely begins in harmony. It begins with inner upheaval. It starts in a home where love came with conditions, where honesty was discouraged, and where safety was not guaranteed. This isn't by chance. It marks the beginning of your personal transformation. For those born not only to awaken themselves, but also to help others awaken, growth doesn't come through comfort. It arises through hardship. The very family that seemed to shatter you was the vessel that shaped you. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to transform what others could not. And so, your life didn't start in peace, but in struggle. Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But that journey isn't a peaceful climb. It's a descent into your own buried pain, a reckoning with everything you were denied. If your early life was marked by rejection, guilt, control, or emotional neglect, you weren't being punished. You were being redirected, trained to seek a love that goes beyond conditions, not a love handed down by family, but one that flows from the source, whether you call it God, the universe, or your highest self. From that deeper connection, you begin again. Toxic families aren't simply misfortunes. They are the soul's first challenge, the forge that awakens your inner truth. They are not the origin of your light, but the pressure that shapes it. These painful family dynamics serve as spiritual training grounds. The demand to earn your worth, the emotional unpredictability, and the repeated denial of your voice. These are your first tests. These aren't just emotional wounds. They act as catalysts. They drive you inward, toward the only sanctuary that cannot be taken from you, your sacred connection to the divine. This is why the so-called black sheep isn't merely different. They are spiritually designed to carry a higher frequency. You don't just see the world differently. You feel with a heart that operates on a deeper level. You perceive what others avoid, hold space for truths others dismiss, and endure pain that many spend a lifetime evading. While those around you might remain in the comfort of illusion, you were awakened early. You were compelled to understand love through its absence, to develop compassion through contrast, and to cultivate empathy not as a luxury, but as a means of survival shaped by adversity. This isn't just poetic language, it's a concept grounded in deep psychological understanding. Carl Jung emphasized that the shadow, the neglected, unconscious aspects of ourselves, must be faced in order to achieve wholeness. You weren't born into darkness to be consumed by it. You were born into it to become familiar with its depth, to walk its path, and to emerge with the wisdom that only comes from overcoming. If you were raised in a home where your voice was ignored, your instincts dismissed, your thoughts manipulated, and your needs neglected, you were not being broken. You were being prepared. Every act of emotional manipulation, every form of control, and every moment of neglect quietly builds your spiritual resilience. You stop seeking external approval. You begin to hear your own voice rising beneath the noise. You learn to stand firmly in your truth, even when others try to diminish it. And here lies the paradox understood only at the soul level. You needed that environment, not because you deserved to suffer, but because you were meant to grow strong. Your soul wasn't sent here in search of ease. It came for growth. It came for transformation. And the only way to rise was to go through it, to become who you are meant to be in this lifetime, to fully activate your inner potential and bring your gifts to the world. You had to face the most difficult lessons in the least forgiving circumstances. You had to find your voice when silence was imposed. You had to protect your peace in the midst of emotional storms. You had to learn how to stand in your truth, even when affection was withheld and understanding was scarce. The spotlight will always feel overwhelming until you've learned to survive the shadows without losing your inner light. And more often than not, those shadows don't originate in the outside world. They begin within the home. Let's not avoid the truth. For some, the word family does not bring comfort. Some families don't bring warmth. They bring a tightness in the chest. Instead of feeling like safe spaces, they can feel like cages around the soul. If you were raised hearing that you were too much, too emotional, too loud, or punished not for wrongdoing, but for telling the truth, understand this. You are not damaged. You are not cursed. You are chosen. And being chosen has never meant avoiding pain. It means being called to transform it. Here's a truth many spiritual teachings often overlook. The path of the chosen does not begin with light. It begins in shadow. It begins with betrayal by those you are instinctively wired to trust. It begins with rejection, where acceptance should have been. Often, the first forms of darkness you encounter wear the faces of mother, father, or sibling. Those who were meant to protect you may have been carrying unhealed wounds of their own, wounds passed down not out of cruelty, but from lack of awareness. Carl Jung saw this clearly. He once said the family is the cradle of all neuroses, not to place blame, but to highlight how our internal world is first formed. To Jung, the family was not only a place of connection, it was the first structure that shapes the soul. When trauma is left unaddressed for generations, buried beneath silence and shame, it forms what Jung called complexes, deep emotional patterns stored in the unconscious, quietly influencing behavior. And you, the one chosen, were not placed in such a family by accident. You were born into it as part of your initiation. You entered the eye of a generational storm, a lineage shaped by emotional suppression, shame, and control. This isn't divine punishment. It's a sacred role. You were born into dysfunction, not to continue its patterns, but to interrupt them, to become awake within it, and to speak truth into a history filled with silence. When love is conditional, you're taught to earn what should be freely given. When your emotions are ignored, you start to question your sense of reality. And when your very presence feels like a burden to those around you, you're left with a question no child should have to ask. Is it safe to be myself? When the answer feels like no, the soul begins its search, not for safety in the external world, but in something greater. This is when awakening begins, not because you're weak, but because your soul came into this life with a purpose, a mission to remember your value without applause, to build strength in the absence of validation, and to find truth in the quiet spaces left by emotional neglect. You were never meant to fit into the pattern that harmed others. You are here not to carry the weight, but to transform it, to reshape it into something aware, something meaningful. Jung believed that true wholeness isn't achieved by avoiding the shadow, but by facing it directly. He taught that the journey to becoming one's authentic self, what he called individuation, requires engaging with the parts of ourselves and society we've disowned. And what greater shadow exists than a family that asks you to hide your true self in exchange for love? If your early life taught you survival more than safety and self-silencing more than self-expression, recognize this. You were not born into the wrong family. You were placed into the fire to become the flame, not to harm others, but to bring light to what's long been hidden. And that light, your light, is not something passed down. It is something earned through the process of remembering who you are beneath what the world tried to make you forget. You weren't placed in a dysfunctional family by accident. A deeper intelligence knew that your soul's light would only take form when challenged by shadow. Within every unhealthy family dynamic, the role of the scapegoat appears. The one who challenges what others accept without question, who is labeled too emotional, too intense, too much, the one who won't conform. But hidden within that label is something meaningful. Often the one most spiritually attuned is the one who disrupts the silence. You were not born to keep the dysfunction going. You were born to break the pattern. Disruption doesn't always come with noise. It isn't always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's the quiet choice to stay true to yourself when acceptance seems to require your silence. Sometimes it's shedding tears alone after being emotionally dismissed, yet still trusting what you feel deep within. Sometimes it's carrying burdens that weren't yours, simply because your soul is strong enough to stop what others couldn't even identify. Being the black sheep isn't a punishment. It's a meaningful role. It's the role of the one who must step outside the illusion in order to truly see it, because only those who no longer fit inside dysfunction can begin to shift it. That clarity, that unique perspective, comes with pain but also with strength. You become the reflection, the awakening, the contradiction to everything the system once upheld. Toxic families don't just fail to meet your emotional needs, they condition you to disregard them. They don't only cause pain, they teach you how to remain in it. You're placed in roles like costumes, the caretaker who takes on too much, the achiever who earns love through success, the invisible one who learns to survive by fading away. You are rewarded for hiding your truth and punished the moment you try to express it. Yet beneath this facade, something ancient stirs. The psyche is not passive. The soul remembers. Every time your honest love is met with withdrawal, a seed of truth is planted. Every time control is disguised as concern, your inner fire grows stronger, craving freedom. Every time affection is withheld, unless you change yourself, you begin to reclaim your right to exist fully, without filters. This process isn't about glorifying suffering, but acknowledging its role in awakening. Jung taught that the shadow, the hidden, rejected parts of our psyche, must be faced and embraced for us to become whole. What your family feared, belittled, or rejected in you were often the very qualities that hold your greatest strength. The traits that couldn't be controlled are the ones that will eventually set you free. This isn't just metaphor. Alchemy happens within the soul of someone who transforms abandonment into self-trust, control into personal power, and shame into sacred individuality. These wounds are not here to break you. They strip away illusions, cut the ties between your worth and others' approval, and dissolve the need to earn love. This allows you to remember that you are love itself. That remembering, raw, quiet and bright, is where your awakening starts. It's born not from peace but from fracture, not from comfort but from resistance. You were born into the fire, not to be destroyed by it, but to rise purified, sovereign and authentic. You are not broken. You are being rebuilt from within. Your true life begins when you stop seeking permission and start living your truth. Here's the truth. Your family was never just where you came from. It was your first spiritual battleground, the place where your soul was ignited and forced to remember itself through contrast, resistance, and the pain of being misunderstood. Just as warriors aren't trained on peaceful fields, you weren't born into ease. You chose intensity, the storm with its confusion, distortions, and mirrors, so that one day you could emerge. This clarity was not punishment, it was your sacred initiation. Only by facing what you are not can you awaken to who you truly are. You are not control, you are love. You are not gaslighting, you are truth. You are not guilt, you are connected. While many unknowingly repeat the family script, acting out a play written by wounded ancestors, you are the one who declared, "This ends with me." This is both the burden and the gift of being the chosen one. But here lies the paradox. As your light begins to break through illusion and your healing gains strength, those most threatened are often not strangers. They are usually those still tied to the script you are rewriting. When you start to rise, don't expect applause from those still asleep. Instead, you may face resistance, criticism, or even gaslighting because your awakening shakes the foundation of their unconscious world. Your clarity challenges the illusion they need to keep intact. That is why spiritual grounding is no longer optional. It is essential. You are not here to convert or convince others. You are here to live your truth and stay connected to your inner source. Visualize this connection as a glowing cord extending from your belly to the heavens, a spiritual umbilical cord linking you directly to the source, to unconditional love, wisdom, and power. This cord isn't just a symbol, it affects your nervous system, which responds to both outside events and the images you hold in your mind. When you feel drained, rejected, or unseen, return to this vision. Feel the light flowing into your body, strengthening your bones, calming your heart, and clearing your mind. Let it nourish you in ways your environment cannot. You are never truly disconnected, you only forgot to reconnect. The second tool in your sacred arsenal is this: stop taking their projections personally. One of the biggest spiritual traps is believing others' opinions reflect the truth. But in toxic dynamics, their criticism is rarely about you. It's a projection of their own unhealed shadow. Carl Jung taught that what we deny in ourselves, we project onto others. So when they call you selfish, dramatic, or too much, they are naming parts of themselves they refuse to face. Practice sovereignty in those moments. Tell yourself, "That's not mine." You are not responsible for their discomfort with your growth. You are not the container for their hidden anger or guilt. And once you stop absorbing their shadow, it loses its hold over you. You become immune as the hurt bounces off. And here is the third essential tool: boundaries. You don't owe constant access to those who drain your energy. Setting distance is not cruelty. It is clarity. Boundaries are not betrayal. They are a form of self-respect. You can love someone while protecting your peace. You can care deeply and still say no. It's possible to grieve the family you wished for while building the soul family you were always meant to find. If you are able to leave a toxic environment, do so not with bitterness but with quiet freedom. If physical escape isn't possible yet, create spiritual pockets of safety. Find connection wherever you can. A single soul online, a mentor, a book, or someone who reminds you of who you really are beneath the roles you were taught to play. You are not meant to heal alone. The more you surround yourself with those who reflect your light, the quicker your energy stabilizes. This is the real work. This is what being chosen means. Not praise or admiration, but initiation, brokenness, and rebuilding into something truer, deeper, and freer than the world expects. From that place you rise, not to escape your family's past, but to transform the future you are shaping. You were not thrown into the fire of a toxic family by fate's cruelty. You were initiated there because your soul carries the ancient knowledge and power to turn suffering into wisdom, to turn breaking points into new beginnings. Now, whether you see it or not, you are fulfilling this sacred purpose. These spiritual tools are not sentimental or superficial. They are your soul's armor forged through fire. They connect you to a higher reality, a space where your worth isn't conditional, your voice is heard, and love isn't a weapon. When the world feels heavy, dull, or out of tune, come back. Return inward. Reconnect to the eternal thread, the glowing cord that links you to Source. You were never broken. You were being refined, Every ache was a sculptor's chisel, shaping the strength you now hold. The path of awakening doesn't always look like light. More often, it feels like collapse. In that breaking down, the ego dissolves. You may feel abandoned by the world, unheard even by God. You may long for belonging and rest. This is not failure. It is the soul's deep breath before renewal. Chosen ones walk this narrow path between despair and revelation, not because they are weak, but because their soul is growing wide enough to carry the future. If you have ever numbed your pain with distraction, addiction, or silence, don't blame yourself. Your body was doing what it needed to survive, but you are here now, and you are ready to live fully. You can't turn back, not because the world demands it, but because your presence is part of a collective awakening. Your suffering was not without meaning. It shaped your character, sharpened your perception, and prepared you to be a model for a world moving beyond its illusions. Carl Jung once said, "Only the paradox comes anywhere near to comprehending the fullness of life." You embody that paradox, wounded yet wise, broken yet blossoming. Your rise is no accident. The earth itself is shaking as old systems fall, and it is the chosen ones who emerge from the ruins. You are the one who has the strength to feel deeply and still love. You who see through illusions but still choose to believe. You who have been broken by cruelty yet continue to show compassion. To help others through their darkness, you must first survive your own. When you stop seeking love from those who never learned to give it, your soul's gifts will awaken like seeds after the rain. Truth will no longer need explanation. You will simply know it. Sensitivity will become your guide. Intuition, your compass. Empathy, your healing. Creativity will flow freely from you, and the waiting for permission, for approval, will end. You will become the permission. You will embody the recognition. This is your sacred return. But be cautious. Survival mode can feel safe. Pain, when endured too long, can disguise itself as security. Depression will urge you to hide. Numbing habits will insist you don't have to feel this. But you are not here to hide. You are here to remember, to feel, and to rise regardless. Every time you resist the impulse to disappear, every moment you choose presence over avoidance, you reclaim a lost part of your soul. There are souls waiting for your story, but first, you must live it fully. Your family may never apologize. The closure you want might never arrive. Yet your freedom does not depend on their understanding. Your peace is not chained to their approval. Your light does not dim because of their blindness. You are the living proof that from darkness new galaxies are born. Because you chose to keep going today, someone somewhere will breathe a little easier tomorrow. If you've made it this far, know this. You are not a victim of your story. You are the creator of a new myth. You are the dawn after a long night. Those chosen ones carry a divine courage, the courage to keep loving, trusting, creating, and shining despite everything they've survived. That is divinity in action. When the darkness returns, as it sometimes will, reconnect with your source. Plug into that golden cord of eternal belonging. Let it fill your heart. Let it raise your gaze. You are not lost. You are awakening. And the world needs the unique energy only you can offer. Thank you for surviving, for showing up, for becoming. You are not alone. You are not too late. You are the light the storm could not extinguish. If anything in this message resonated with you, if even one word reflected your inner experience, I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. Have you met a soul whose presence feels like home, or are you still walking the sacred path back to yourself? Your story, however unfinished, may become a beacon for someone else, a sign they didn't know they were searching for. If someone close to you is silently struggling with the belief that love must hurt, that self-sacrifice is necessary for connection, or that they don't deserve peace, please share this video with them. Help me reach those who need to remember, true love does not require shrinking. Genuine connection does not demand sacrificing the soul. The most important relationship we will ever have is the one we form with our own inner truth. Before you go, I invite you to subscribe and activate the notification bell. Here we explore beneath the surface, diving into the hidden structure of the psyche, the whispers of the unconscious, and how every relationship mirrors our personal growth. If there is a theme, question, or wound you want us to address in future videos, please leave it below. This space exists because of you. Your voice isn't just welcome here, it is essential. Thank you for showing up, not only for this video, but for your inner work, for the sacred journey of remembering who you truly are. And always remember, when the right person appears, your soul will recognize them, not through fear, but through peace. Until that moment comes, let your closest relationship be the one you nurture within yourself. That is the foundation. That is home. And from that wholeness, all genuine things are born.